your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Hawkeye Nation, to a Wednesday morning episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your daily podcast covering your Iowa Hawkeyes on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Andrew Wade. Excited to be back for another show today, and we have a great episode coming at you. The Iowa football team hires a former Iowa football player to join the staff, promoting Brian Ferentz, or not promoting, but moving Brian Ferentz from tight end coach to quarterback coach in addition to his offensive coordinator responsibilities. We're going to be talking about that first on the show and why it was a phenomenal hire, but also a surprising one. We also got to talk about Keegan Murray. After he won the 5th Big Ten Player of the Week honor this year, is he the best player in the Fran McCaffery era, including Luka Garza? And finally, on segment 3, we're going to be talking about the Iowa wrestling team and the seeds they got and which players or which wrestlers we should be on the lookout for coming into tournament time. Before we get to all that, though, I want to thank you all for making the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast your first listen every single day. You can find the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast for free wherever you get podcasts at, and also on YouTube by searching Locked On Hawkeyes. And today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is brought to you by Run Your Pool. March Madness is here, and Run Your Pool has a better way to create your bracket. RunYourPool.com, the premier sports pool hosting service. So let's get into it. The Iowa Hawkeyes have announced that they, or at least sources have said, they are going to be hiring former South Dakota outside linebackers coach and NFL liaison, former NFL linebacker, and most importantly, former Iowa linebacker, Abdul Hodge. They have hired Abdul Hodge to be the tight ends coach for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, a lot of people were quick to say, why did we do that, right? A lot of people were excited about the possibility of hiring a quarterback coach, me included. I thought this is an opportunity to bring in a person who has a bit more experience developing quarterbacks. So it was a bit surprising to me to see Iowa make this move, and a move that we were not expecting, right? We did not expect Iowa to switch gears, not hire a quarterback coach and hire a tight ends coach, but nevertheless, it's one I'm very excited about. First and foremost, Abdul Hodge is going to be a leader. He is a highly respected former Iowa football player. Kirk Ferentz loves him. The program loves him. He is just a phenomenal guy all around. And when it comes to finding coaches, Iowa's going to want to find guys who understand how to play Iowa football, who understand the culture, the updated culture of Iowa football, and have good character themselves. Take away the tight end coach, he's also hails from Florida. Just like Liddell Betts, who has a no, Liddell Betts doesn't hail from Florida, but Liddell Betts has a recruiting circle in Florida. Abdul Hodge also has that ability as well, being from Florida, has some roots there, which should help Iowa continue to kind of target some of those guys in the state of Florida and that southeast region as well. Now, when you look at Abdul Hodge, you think the guy was an outside linebacker in the NFL. He was an outside linebackers coach. Why and how is he going to coach tight ends? I would like to quickly give you one amazing example of how where you played should not dictate who you are allowed to coach. Actually, two fantastic examples. First, let's start with LeVar Woods. LeVar Woods was a 2-year starter at outside linebacker for the Iowa football team. He then coached tight ends. He actually started out as the linebackers coach, then started coaching tight ends, and now he's the special teams coordinator. A good coach is a good coach. They're going to figure out ways to make an impact at their positions. LeVar Woods is not a kicker by any means or a punter, but when you talk to Keith Duncan or you talk to Torrey Taylor, they have the utmost faith in LeVar Woods. He's going to figure out everything he needs to do to make sure that they are going to be successful at their positions and that the special teams unit is going to be successful there as well. Now, a lot of you probably are not high on Brian Ferentz as a coach. I would disagree to an extent, but Brian Ferentz is also a phenomenal example as well. A former center, he was coaching tight ends for the New England Patriots. Not just any tight ends. Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. Arguably the best tight end duo ever to play the game. Before coming over to Iowa. Now, he has continued to coach tight ends as he has also coordinated the offense. But I think this move is a couple things. First and foremost, you are getting a phenomenal, high-character person in the building. You can never have too many of those guys. You're getting a former guy with Iowa football experience in Abdul Hodge, who is respected across the staff, has played with Brian Ferentz, has his ear, and honestly, as a linebackers coach, if I had to pick another spot where you could transition to, it would be tight ends. Think about it. Linebackers are covering tight ends. You have to understand some of the tight end tendencies. You can look at it from that lens. And also, again, a good coach is a good coach. They will figure out ways to coach that position up. Now, for Brian, this is a big prove-it move. The quarterback position clearly has failed the last 2 years. Whether it's Spencer or Alex, it has failed. We've seen glimpses from both those guys, but it has failed. Ken O'Keefe is gone. Brian Ferentz now has the opportunity to not only be the offensive coordinator, but to coach these quarterbacks up to play in his system. I also want to believe that this means that Brian Ferentz is going to have a little bit more control over his offense. And for those of you thinking, what do you mean he's the offensive coordinator? If you don't think that Kirk Ferentz has a lot of say in how Iowa calls their plays, then you are taking crazy pills, because Kirk Ferentz absolutely has a humongous impact on that, a big footprint, dare I say. So this is a big prove-it move for Brian Ferentz. He is now responsible for that position that has been the kryptonite of this Iowa offense the last 2 years. If he can turn that around, this is a career saver for Brian Ferentz. Not saying his career is in jeopardy, but this is a big time opportunity for him to say, it wasn't me. I can be the solution. I was not the problem, without having to actually come out and say that. So I know I would have loved to have seen Drew Tate come in, or Spencer Petras' quarterback coach, Tony Racciopi. I would love to see those guys have an opportunity, but I am ultimately happy with this. You get a high character guy here. You get Brian Ferentz on a prove-it situation where he's coaching the quarterbacks and the offensive coordinator position, which is typically what you see in general in college football. It's not often you have the offensive coordinator coaching tight ends. Now, granted, the tight end position has had a lot of success, but I would like to see him translate that over to the quarterback position. Coming up, we're going to talk about Keegan Murray and why he may be the best player in the Fran McCaffery era. And what does best mean? Before we get to that, I do want to say congratulations to the women's basketball team. Caitlin Clark was named Big Ten Player of the Year yesterday. Monica was named first team All Big Ten, and McKenna Warnock was named second team All Big Ten. So congratulations to those ladies on a phenomenal season, and let's see what they can continue to do going forward. Before we get to the talk about Keegan Murray, though, I want to remind you that it might be tough to get your New Year's resolutions going, right? You're in month 3. We are in March now. It is tough to stick to that fantastic eating plan you were keeping in January or February, or just keeping your fantastic health habits you're trying to build in the year of 2022. But it doesn't have to be that hard. If you're struggling with what to eat and how to eat it, grab yourself a Built Bar. Built Bar is a phenomenal protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and they are truly delicious. It takes all those candy bar tastes and it combines them with all the health benefits of a protein bar. So when you grab it, you're excited about it. You want that 100% chocolatey goodness that you get in a Built Bar, but you also are really excited about the fact that these bars only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, plus 17 grams of protein. It's the perfect replacement for that sweet that you normally get, and it has a lot of health benefits for you as well. So go to built.com to get your hands on these awesome Built Bars and use the promo code LOCKED15, that's LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And thank you again for making the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure to check out the Locked On Bracket Breakdown March 14th right here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast feed and YouTube channel. College basketball experts Chris Gordy, Andy Patton, and betting expert Lee Sterling give you in-depth breakdowns on every single matchup so you can play some bets and win some money at Run Your Pool when you go and sign up for my run your pool Locked On Hawkeyes bracket or at betonline.net where you can play some actual bets there. So let's get into it. Keegan Murray won his 5th Big Ten Player of the Week honor, which is fantastic. He has had a superb season, one of the best we've ever seen from a sophomore. Now, it's crazy to think that Iowa has managed to go from Luka Garza to Keegan Murray. It's not often you get that kind of transition. Now, before we talked about this segment, before we even got into our ad reads, I had said, is Keegan Murray the best player in the Fran McCaffery era? And you were probably thinking, there is no way. It is 100% Luka Garza. But I think it's important to define best. Now, Luka Garza was certainly more productive in a lot of aspects. He won a National Player of the Year award. You cannot take away those accolades. He is, without a doubt, going to arguably be the most decorated Iowa basketball player in all of our lifetimes. But talent-wise, you've got to give it to Keegan Murray. Statistically speaking, they're a little bit more comparable than you might think. Looking at Keegan's statistics, 23.3 points per game, 8.6 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 2 blocks. He's shooting 36% from 3 and 64% from the field. Now let me pull up Luka's real quick. I think that'll help kind of paint that picture as well. Luka Garza in his National Player of the Year award-winning season, 24.1 points per game, 1.6 blocks, 0.7 steals, 1.7 assists, 8.7 rebounds, shooting 44% from 3 and 58% from the field. Now, Luka was getting a lot of looks, triple teamed almost every single game. But Keegan Murray is starting to get those looks as well. Statistically speaking, they're actually a lot more comparable than you might think. Now, talent-wise, no one is going to outwork Luka Garza. He is going to outwork literally everyone on the court at any given time. But talent-wise, it may be Keegan Murray. What he is doing is playing some of the most impressive basketball we have ever seen. And he's positioning himself to be the highest rated or the highest drafted pick in the Fran McCaffery era and in the last 4 decades, possibly ever. Right, we've seen Keegan Murray mocked in that top 10. If he goes 6th or higher, actually 5th or higher, he'll be the highest drafted player from Iowa ever. Look at these guys who have gone first. The last first round pick for Iowa was Ricky Davis back in 1998, going 21st overall. A.C. Earl went 19th in 1993. B.J. Armstrong, 18th in 1989. Roy Marble, 23rd in 1989. Ronnie Lester, 10th in 1980. Kevin Kunnert, 12th in 1973. Fred Brown, 6th in 1971. John Johnson, 7th in 1970. And Chuck Darling, 9th in 1952. The game has certainly changed since the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s. Now, Keegan Murray has an opportunity to join a very, very small list. It is a list of 9 people right now. Keegan Murray, barring some ridiculous collapse, meltdown, whatever it might be, will be a first-round pick in this upcoming NBA draft. Keegan Murray could be the highest pick ever for Iowa. So when you talk about the best player in the Fran McCaffery era, it depends on how you define best. Most talented? I think you got to give it to him. The guy can score from everywhere. He can defend all 5 positions. He's a matchup nightmare across the board. And I would argue his play style actually helps Iowa a bit more come tournament time. Now, again, this is not a knock on Luka at all. Luka was and is a phenomenal basketball player and truly, without a doubt, deserved to have his jersey retired. A legacy forever. On the Mount Rushmore of Iowa basketball. But you talk about talent-wise, you got to go to Keegan Murray. When you talk about how this team plays, in March, you don't see a lot of traditional centers being the show in March and in April. You're typically going to see guards and wings kind of light things up and carry teams forward. So I talk about the best player ever in the Fran McCaffery era. I think it's a fair argument. He will not go down as the best Iowa basketball player in the Fran McCaffery era, but the best, most talented player, without a doubt, I think has to be Keegan Murray, which is pretty impressive considering we just saw Luka Garza and Joe Wieskamp play for the Iowa basketball team last year and are now playing in the NBA. You also saw Tyler Cook, who is a phenomenal player as well, also playing in the NBA at certain occasions. So very interesting that Iowa has had such success with these guys. Coming up, we're going to talk about the wrestling seeds. The wrestling seeds came out. What does it mean? What are the storylines to watch? We have you covered right here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. And I want to remind you that March Madness is only a few weeks away. That means you need to start thinking now about where you're going to be running your brackets this year. Are you going for the usual or are you looking for the best? We've done our homework here and we're running brackets with runyourpool.com. Along with standard brackets, Run Your Pool offers game types like Survivor or Pick X. They have options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel to make your picks. All stuff you won't find at ESPN or CBS. If you've got a business, Run Your Pool can help you take some of that madness magic and play alongside your employees or even gain customers. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe Run Your Pool because, like I said, we are running our brackets there ourselves. There's no truer test than that. If you want to play against us for a shot at a cash prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, create your own pool for your friends and family. Enter the code PUREMADNESS at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you right there. And this episode is brought to you by RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computers, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have access to rockauto.com, so save some money and find the parts you need at rockauto.com. I went to rockauto.com for 2 engine air filters. It saved me $50, and it only took me 5 minutes. Plus, it was delivered directly to my door. I saved time, I saved money, and I got the parts I wanted and needed. No better deal than that. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. All right, y'all, and let's get into it. The wrestling seeds are out. It is a crazy time right now with everything going on. March is a phenomenal time to be talking Iowa sports. We have the women's basketball team that is going to be likely a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. We have a men's team that is positioning themselves to possibly be a 5 or even a 6 or even a 5 seed, I should say. That's a little bit backwards in how I said that. And we have a wrestling team that is competing for back-to-back national championships. And it starts this weekend in the Big Ten tournament. Iowa is shooting for their 3rd straight Big Ten team title. And the big thing about these conference tournaments, winning gets you into the NCAA tournament. But they're also given slots per conference. Now, I don't see anyone as being in danger to not make the NCAA tournament. But you could have a situation like that, like last year. I believe it was Max Mirren who, or even is either Max or Caleb last year, who struggled in the Big Ten team tournament and had to wait for an at-large bid. They were not given an automatic qualifying bid. But let's go through this weight class, right? The whole weight classes for the wrestling team. Obviously, at 125, Spencer Lee is not here, which hurts Iowa's chances to get that 3rd straight title. But in his stead, Drake Ayala is at number 6 seed. And Drake at number 6 could definitely do some damage. He's beaten 5th-seeded Devin Schroeder. He's lost to 4th-seeded Malik Heinzelman 7-5. And if you want some happiness in this, Spencer Lee in his freshman year had 3 losses going into the Big Ten tournament and then lost his first match there. He ended up winning a national title. Drake Ayala, I'm not saying he is Spencer Lee, but he has a ton of talent, and I've been very impressed when I've seen him wrestle this season. This is a guy to watch out for, to make a run, possibly get on that podium as a medal or a 1, 2, or 3 finisher for Iowa at 125. At 133, Austin DeSanto is the number 2 seed. The biggest question mark here is, can he overcome Roman Bravo Young? It would be huge for his confidence. And Austin DeSanto, the beauty of Austin DeSanto come tournament time is his ability to score bonus points. Nearly 70% of his matches, he is in the bonus, which is absolutely huge for Iowa come tournament time. Getting a major decision and a lot of points for Iowa Hawkeyes. At 141, Jayden Ireman at number 2. Can he take down Nick Lee? He has only had 2 losses the last 2 seasons. Both have been to Nick Lee by a combined score of 10-6. Starts here. Can he beat him here in the Big Ten tournament? Take that into the national title or national tournament and take him down there. That is going to be a huge opportunity for the Hawkeyes. At 149, Max Murin ranked 4th, or seeded 4th, I should say. Again, this is a spot to watch out for. With only 7 NCAA auto qualifiers from the Big Ten, Max Murin needs to do well. He's had an up and down career with the Hawks. Can he put together for this matchup? At 157, Caleb Young is seeded number 2, and he's riding a hot streak coming into the tournament. After starting the season 2-5, Caleb Young is now 8-0 in his last 8 matches. That is an impressive run that has been all Big Ten teams. Can he continue here? He's a guy to watch out for as a potential sleeper to be at that number 1 spot. At 165, we have number 2 seeded Alex Marinelli. Again, the bull is phenomenal. We're not too worried about him. He will figure his stuff out. At 174, Michael Kimmerer, kind of underseeded. He's struggled a little bit this year. He's number 4. And in the previous 2 seasons, he only lost in the national championship matches. This year, he struggled a little bit. He fell to Carter Sorochi and also lost against Nebraska in a very weird match as well. He's going to get revenge against Carter Sorochi, or get an opportunity for revenge against Carter Sorochi in this match against Penn State in the Big Ten tournament, hopefully. As long as he's healthy, we should see Michael Kimmerer be able to make that podium and hopefully win the Big Ten title at the 174 weight. At 184, Abe Assad. This has been such a question mark for the Iowa Hawkeyes. This lineup at 184 has been such a struggle point the last couple of years. Abe Assad is also coming into this tournament with a bit of a down streak. He has 1-4 in his last 5 matches. Can he pull it together? Can he get Iowa some much-needed team points, get far into the Big Ten title? And then finally, to wrap it up, number 4 seeded Jacob Warner at 197, and Tony Cassiope seeded number 2 at 285, and he'll eventually meet the man, the myth, the legend, Gabe Stevenson, who will probably beat Tony Cassiope. Those are your seeds. As the tournament happens, we will try to break that all down for you right here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. As I said, it is a busy time in the month of March, and we have so much content to cover for you right here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. I do want to remind you that you can find the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast here and make us your first listen every single day. And I appreciate you for doing that. It really means a lot to me, your support. But now, make your second listen to Locked On NFL Draft podcast, hosted by Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. They bring the NFL Draft to life every single day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and the NFL front offices. And it's free and available wherever you get podcasts at. So tune into that. Iowa Hawkeye Nation, we appreciate you tuning in to today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. We will be back tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We got a preview of Iowa, Michigan, the big men's basketball game taking place tomorrow night, plus other hot topics around the Iowa Hawkeye sphere. So stay tuned for that. Have a phenomenal Wednesday, and as always, Hawkeye Nation,